today is Nitin Tiwari. So yeah, Nitin is one of our Primavera experts here at Hyde Park, and he's got a lot of experience across P6, Unifier, OPC, and AConneX. So yeah, now I'll hand you over to Nitin to take you through this week's session. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian, and welcome everyone to the third session of this OPC campaign. So these are the objectives. We will talk about resources today. We will see how we can create resources and roles, how we can push them down from the workspace project level. Then we will talk about strategies to maximize resource usage, talk about resource demand, tracking resource usage, and then we will also talk about a tool called a resource leveler towards the end. So let's see how you can create resources and roles, and then how you can assign them to activities. So let me switch from this presentation to the application. So I have created few sample projects for demonstration. So you can see there are 3 tabs open on my screen, and I'm sure by now you will be able to recognize which is a workspace and which is a project. So you can see here this tab, which has this folder kind of icon, is a workspace. And if I click on a project, you see there's a different icon for a project. So starting from workspace, so you can define your resources and role at the workspace level. And later when you create projects in that particular workspace, you can utilize the same resources and roles. So I'm here inside our workspace called OPC campaign. And if I go to resources app and click on resource list. So here is where you can define the list of resources or import them. You have different types: labor, non-labor, and material resources. You can add their rates. It allows you to add up to 5 rates, and associate codes, assign roles. You can assign a primary role to a particular resource. Similarly, if you go to resources app and click on role list, you can add roles, and you can do the same what you did for the resources in terms of applying rates, codes, and resources. So this is at the workspace level. Now, for example, let me go to this project, which is Convention Center 1. Sorry. So in this project, there is a particular app called resources. And if I click on resource list, so I have 2 options. Either I can add new resources at the project level if I don't want to use the workspace resource, or I can click on assign, and it will list all the resources which you created at the workspace level, and you can just select them and invite them to your project. And you can do the same for the roles as well. You just have to go to the role list, and you have the same options here. You can either add roles at this level, or you can utilize workspace roles from here. And then to assign them to activities, you have these activities app, which we covered in the last session. You can just go to activities. And you can select a particular activity, go to resource assignment, and add a particular resource. And right now, if you're in the planning phase, you don't know which is the exact resource, you can just add a particular role, and you can staff this role later once you have the set of resources available. So that's how you can create roles and assign them to activities. Moving on to the next topic, which is strategies to maximize resource usage. So there are two inbuilt pages under resource application, the app, which we just saw, the assignment and the analysis page. So the assignment page will just show you the list of all the resources and the activities they are tagged to. And if you are looking at this page at the project level, it will only show you information specific to your project. But if you are accessing this at the workspace level, it will show you information related to all the projects which are a part of that particular workspace. So let me show you the sample data. So let's say that we are in Convention Center 1 project, and we go to Resources app inside the project, click on Assignment List. So here you can see that we have just one resource assigned, right? If there are multiple resources, you can see everything listed over here. And you have this icon here, which is called Closer Look icon. And if you click on it, it will give you some additional information. And you can add the columns in the background, I mean, activity name, ID. You can customize this page, but this will also give you additional information like percent complete, status not started, etc. So this is the assignment list page of a project. And then we can also go to the analysis page. So this analysis page will show you information like maximum availability, allocation, over or under allocation. So right now, if I just look at this project and click on this resource, so I don't see, so here is the legend. Right now, there are no actual units. Remaining units are in green. Over allocated units, we don't have over allocation in this project for this particular resource. And the maximum availability line, you can see it. So right now you only see it till Friday 15th for the month of October, where my cursor is. And if I go towards the right, you can see where my cursor is on the right top corner. So it will show me, I can just go towards the right, and this will show me the entire analysis of this resource. And it does not show me any over allocation units in this project for this particular resource. But now let's check if this resource is over allocated at the workspace level. So if I go to the workspace and go to analysis app, so now I'm at the workspace level. So you will notice it's the same. This resource is associated to two projects, high-rise construction and Convention Center 1. So there is no over allocation at the project level. If there is over allocation at the project level, we can, add an additional resource, or if there are many resources, you can do all those things at the project level. But here it shows over allocation at the workspace. The same resource is utilized in two different projects around the same time. And here you can see, if you hover over it. So right now the view that you see is based on total usage. But if you want to see in terms of project, you can organize it by project. Now I can see here the legend says high-rise construction and Convention Center 1. These are the two projects. So in order to remove this over allocation, what we can do is, for example, I click on this closer look icon. So in this particular project, which is high-rise construction, the resource is allocated to civil drawings preparation, activity 1010, 4th October to 29th October. And if I check in this project, the resource is assigned to the same activity, but in a different project around the same time. So what we can do is we can go to that project. Let's say we go to Convention Center 1 project, go to the activities page. Click on activity, civil drawings preparation. It is A1010. And you can remove Ankit and check for another available resource. Let's say we have Alistair in this case. And before you assign him on this particular activity, you can click on show details to see if Alistair is over allocated or has availability. So here it shows that Alistair is available to work on this activity. So you can just assign him, and you can use units time to the resource that you're assigning. Say save. So it is saved, and you can also schedule the project if you want to. And now if you go back to the analysis page at the workspace level, and let's refresh the page. So you can see that at this level, at the workspace level, the over allocation for Ankit is resolved. If you want to check allocation with respect to Alistair, you can apply quick filters. For example, so there are a lot of resources, but you can choose to filter resources that you are willing to work with. So here, for example, if I select Alistair, so here I can see now Alistair and Ankit, both of them are not over allocated. And even at the workspace level, the over allocation is resolved. So this is how you can use the assignment and analysis page at the project or at the workspace level if you are a resource manager to remove over allocations from resources. Okay, so moving on to the next topic, which is forecasting resource demand. So as the term itself suggests that you are trying to plan your resources well in advance if you're in the planning phase of a project. So let's see how you can do that. So let's go to our project, go to resources, go to resource demand. So you can see that the resource demand of this project, the good thing about this tool is that if you have a well-defined resource loaded schedule in place, then you can use this option, which is create demand from schedule. So right now what you see is, since I loaded a resource loaded schedule, so the demand is created from that schedule, or else you can click on assign and you can add rows, you can define their start and finish date, you can define full-time equivalent or the total number of hours. You can do that manually as well to define the resource demand. Now, if you see the columns here, you have the demand column, you have commitment, over, under, and demand cost. So right now, if you see that there is nothing under commitment because you're doing it as a part of resource planning. So when will this get committed? So the information from the project level the resource demand information from the project level. I mean, if some of you have attended the portfolio session, which was the first session in the series, which I did. So for example, I will duplicate this tab and go to the portfolio. So we used this roadways proposal list 2021 portfolio for that session. And what happens when you're planning for resources? So your resource demand from the project rolls up to the portfolio. And when you create a scenario, you can see here you have your convention center project, which we are working with. And another project is high-rise construction. So these portfolios will these scenarios, I'm sorry, will undergo review as a part of portfolio what if analysis. And there is an inbuilt review process, send for review, propose, send for approval, and approve. So once the scenario is approved, then if you go back to the project, the commitment will be approved. So that's how this works. So you create the demand at the project level, information gets rolled up to the portfolio resource for resource planning at that level. And once the scenario, which is your what if analysis, gets approved, the committed dates and resources and the duration, everything gets added over here under resource demand at the project level. So this is how you can manage your resource demand in Primavera Cloud. Sorry. So the next is tracking resource usage. So you can also track resource usage at the project level without going to the assignment or the analysis page. So let's see how you can do that. So let's go to activity, click on activities. Select a particular activity. And you will notice here under activity details, there is a drop down. You can click on project usage. And you can see here you have the resource usage and the role usage. Let me make some space. And if you want to see, right now we have Ankit who is assigned to the activities. So if I click on this particular resource and I can drag and drop. So, okay, so if you notice, we replaced Ankit with Alistair on this project. So we don't see information here. So let's try Alistair on this project. You can see here that Alistair has planned units and remaining units, which are both same right now. And because the project, the activity hasn't started yet. And it also has a remaining late because if you notice that this activity was supposed to start on 4th and today is 5th. So it is showing you the remaining units as well. So you can either do it for a particular resource, you can check, you can click on, means there are options here. You can use this or you can use a stacked histogram if you want to analyze resource usage based on a particular attribute. So you can see that information for the resource and the role over here. Another options which are available here are show all activities above if you want to see information about all the activities, or show activities for selected time period, or show activities for selected resources. So there are multiple options which you can choose from. Along with that, you can also add additional columns by clicking on this option over here. So you can choose the columns which you want to see. You can also add additional spreadsheet columns based on how you want to analyze resource data. So this is how you can use resource usage and select the resource and identify over allocation. at the project level. Moving on to the next topic, which is our last topic for today, which is leveling resources. So I'm sure all of you know what is resource leveling, but just want to highlight a few points here. The first primary point is it's a tool, not a solution. So it can suggest you stuff, but you have to take the right decision. And it is applicable usually where you have less resources or limited resources. And what it does is resource over allocation can occur. It says when multiple activities are scheduled to use the same resource, which we know already by now. And what resource leveling does is it can resolve over allocation by examining each activity. We can also prioritize among activities, which is more important and based on what prioritization. So I'll give you a demonstration of that. And it says that if sufficient resources are not available, the activity moves to a later date when the resources are available. And another thing to note is leveler starts at the beginning of the project and network logic is obeyed. So it follows the network logic. Another thing is if there are hard constraints, let's say mandatory constraints, it will also respect those constraints while you are doing leveling. So let's look at the example. So let me just close this and go to the project which I have created for demonstration, resource leveling project 1. And let's go to activities first. So this is a simple project and it has around 8 activities, 8 to 9 activities. It has planned duration, remaining duration. I have pulled in few columns like total float, leveling priority, late start. And here you can see the Gantt chart. And another thing to note is all these activities have a resource in common, which is architect. So that is the thing that we are trying to solve here, how we can level this particular resource. So now in order to level resource, there is an option available under actions called level. But before we go to that option, let's go to the analysis page under resources, which we have just seen already, analysis. And you can see here that architect is over allocated by 40 hours and 48 hours. So if I click on, so it shows over allocation here, the same thing which we have seen. Now what we will try to do is we will try to use the tool leveler and try to remove the over allocation. So let's go back to activities. So another thing to note is that, for example, I apply leveler to this schedule, and later when I schedule it, the whatever the leveler has done will disappear. So what I try to do is once I apply the leveler, I try to make a baseline copy of it, right? And then you can convert that baseline into the current schedule. So let me just, so you have option here called manage baselines where you can create multiple baselines. In this case, I have already created this baseline called current 5th October baseline. So, I mean, I find this method easy. I mean, if I'm okay with the results shared by the leveler and I want to apply it to my schedule. So before that, let's see how you can use the leveler. click on actions, click on level. So here you can choose you want to level resources or roles. I have checked these two options, preserve schedule early and late dates, and display the leveling log. This is very important. Otherwise, it's difficult to interpret what happened to your schedule. So here you can see that I have already selected architect and moved it from left to right. And you can also use prioritization. So right now, my first prioritization field is leveling priority. And then you have late start and total float. There are many options which you can choose from based on how you want to level the resources. So before I run, so these are the options, and you can see in the background, let me move it to the left. Right now, the leveling priority for all the activities is normal. And so in the first go, we will keep it as normal, and we will look at the log and see the information, like what activities are impacted. And in the second go example, I will just elevate the priority level of a particular activity and then evaluate the results. So let's go ahead and click on level now. So the leveler runs in the background. So current plan duration is 30 days in the background. Okay, so if you see the results, scheduler results, and if I expand this, it says these 3 activities are critical, which we could also make out from the Gantt chart. And at the bottom, it says activities delayed due to resource leveling. There are total 5 activities: activity H, G, B, F, and D. So right now the leveling priority of all the activities is normal. So we can see B. So let's go ahead and add elevate B with the level of priority. So I'll just close this, and my duration has increased. It's 55 days now. The dates have moved, but you will notice the moment I schedule, I will get back to my original schedule. It'll go back to 30 days. And that's the reason I suggested that at that stage when it showed 55 days, and if you're okay with the results, you can create a baseline or maybe create a scenario from it, which you can then apply to your current schedule if you're okay with the result. So now let's go ahead, select activity B, and let's give it top priority. And now let's go back to the leveler and run the leveler with the same settings, Level now. And let's go to the results, scheduler results. The critical activities are 3. Now let's look here. So earlier it delayed 5 activities based on the prioritization. Now there are 6, and you will notice that B is not one of them because that has top priority. That means activity B needs resource immediately. So this is how you can run the leveler, and you can again see it's 55 days. So at this stage, if you want to create a baseline, you can just click on manage baseline, create a baseline. That baseline will appear later in this drop down, just like this, and then you can use that baseline as your current schedule if you want to, or if not, you can just schedule it, which will take you back to your original schedule. So this is how you can use the leveler. It's a tool, not the solution. And few other things which are good to know is the rules for determining The order of leveling activities, we already know about mandatory constraints. Activities that have mandatory start-finish dates are not moved. So the thing to note is that this may cause violation of network logic. And then predecessor, successor, the network logic is respected while you level. And then the leveling priority, we have already seen. You can specify the leveling priority in advance. Activity ID can be a tiebreaker when two activities have equal ranking based on the specified prioritization criteria. So that is something which you can note. And finally, activity leveling priority is the default leveling criterion. So these are the rules for determining the order of leveling activities. Just few important points to note before you run the leveler. So that brings us to the end of today's session. And today we have done well with the time. We are well around 4 p.m. So that's it for today. And if you have questions, please share it on the chat. We will reply, we will answer the questions, and hope to see you all in the last session, which we have next week on Tuesday around same time.